Okay, so it was not a good day for Blake Lively in the courtroom. Here's why. She's basically asking for a stronger protective order. But then you have the judge saying that he believes that anything that is entering the court should be of public interest. So it's going to be very tricky. He didn't give a ruling today, but he hinted at that ruling where she's probably not going to get a stronger protective order, but we don't have a final conclusion. Your Baldoni's team, who said that Lively is trying to prevent the public from accessing more evidence. And then you have Lively's team saying that everything for the Baldoni team is PR value and is greater than complying with court orders. But the biggest thing that Lively's team asked for, requested for today, is she wants any messages that are with celebrities or high profile people, that she wants them to be only looked at by attorneys, that it should not be allowed to be put out there for the public to see it. You have Lively's team basically saying that this could then lead to tabloid stories that then lead to a lot of speculation about stuff that really has nothing to do with it, ends with us and this whole entire lawsuit. What are your thoughts on all of this? What do you think should happen? Write in the comments below.
I do not think Blake Lively's lawyers are making her look any better, and here's why. I listened to about an hour of today's protective order hearing. It's really around the attorney's eyes only designation that Lively's team really wants, and the other PR people on her side of the V. Why I don't think it makes her look good is because Brian Friedman literally calls out. He's like, why are you getting special treatment as a celebrity, right? Like, why are you and your high profile friends getting special treatment that the average person wouldn't get? And like, that's just not cool in this day and age, right? And then he's like, okay, your trade secret stuff, right? And this kind of goes more towards the PR. It's like, you're not Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Everybody knows who your clients are. Like, what are you actually protecting? Like, stop it. And then in the example that Lively's team gives for communications, right? They're like, why should this communication be protected by this additional layer of attorney's eyes only? The example that they give, and they give a hypothetical, and they use Justin Baldoni as an example, so they don't give anything away, fine. They're like, well, if Baldoni had a high profile friend and he's texting that friend, the high profile friend, about like venting about his day on work on set, right? It's potentially marginally relevant to the case, right? And Justin Baldoni's lawyer is like, well, wait a second. One of the causes of action here against my client, Mr. Baldoni, is intentional infliction of emotional distress. And if so-and-so's venting about their day to their high-profile friend, my client can't see that, who is the one that these allegations are alleged against. I can see that, but he can't see that? Like, that is not cool. It's not cool, and it's not fair, right? Like, if somebody is suing you for a claim, a cause of action, and you can't see their arguments and the evidence that they effectively want to show to say, oh, I couldn't get out of bed, or I was so upset that this happened on set, and now I'm like sitting here crying, or whatever you're saying, right? Just because it's sent to a high profile friend, like, what? Like, what kind of kangaroo court is this? Like, no. Because those text messages would be more than marginally relevant. They would go to the heart of intentional infliction of emotional distress, right? They would go to the elements of this. And the judge earlier in this said, he was like, look, like, if this goes to trial and part of this discovery stuff gets admitted into evidence, like, it's public knowledge at that point. Like, unless there are some cases where, like, they can keep certain things from the public, but he's like, that's a very high bar, kind of insinuating, like, you're probably not going to get that. Like, prepare yourself. I also feel like he's insinuating, like, if you really don't want this to get out of hand, like, you probably should settle, but I'm probably reading into that a little bit much. If you don't want this out in the public, you're going to need a settlement option. But yeah, I just feel like this makes her look like she has an even higher ego, because it's like all centered around intimate conversations with high profile individuals, and I'm like, yeah, nobody else would be afforded this protection. So
buckle up, because this is gonna be a real good one. Hello, my friend. Perez Hilton here, the queen of all media, the original influencer, 21 years strong, and your #1 source for everything It Ends With Us saga. As I previously told you, ball-busting Blake requested more protection for her celebrity friends. She wants an attorney's eyes only designation, and her lawyers have submitted paperwork saying that that is warranted and standard in cases like this. Baldoni's lawyers claimed that this is not necessary and that the standard protective order that they already agreed to is enough. The judge ordered both parties to hash it out. They couldn't. So the virtual hearing was held today. It lasted about 70 minutes, and neither Baldoni nor the yummy chanteuse were there. Blake Hurd is worried about some texts getting out there between her and her high-profile friends. And not just Taylor Swift, there are many other players involved for her and her husband, because Ryan Reynolds is also named in this lawsuit. Taylor Swift, but also Hugh Jackman, Emily Blunt, Gigi Hadid, a lot of A-listers and B-listers. And a lawyer for Team Delulu says there is a significant chance of irreparable harm if marginal conversations with high-profile individuals with no relevance to the case were to fall into wrong hands. Well, I would argue, and so would his lawyer, I think, that Taylor Swift's communications with her former dragon keeper are of high interest and relevancy to this case. The plantation princess herself repeatedly talked publicly about what an important role Taylor played in the creative process. There is video of her talking about that. The parties in this case, says a lawyer for Team Delulu, on both sides include people whose entire living is made off providing information to the press and content creators. There are 100 million reasons for these parties to leak information because the PR value is greater than complying with the court's orders. However, Brian Friedman, the lead attorney for Justin Baldoni, who's also my lawyer and has not given me anything here at all, not once, but taken my money in the past, a lot of it. Brian Friedman, his lawyer, says that it is offensive that anyone would suggest that we would disregard a protective order. Friedman does not think an attorney's eyes only designation is necessary. Friedman argued that Lively and Reynolds' plan would unjustly treat celebrity people and people who are powerful in the industry different from other people. A so-called model protective order already submitted to the court to bar the public dissemination of sensitive information provides sufficient protection, Friedman argued. And he reiterated, quote, "No one has any intent of harming Miss Lively in any way. However," he added, "my clients have a right to defend themselves. That is in no way abusing the victim." Judge Lyman said that he is very aware of how all of this is playing out in the media. And Judge Lyman pointed out that both sides have alleged that the other has leaked confidential information that are difficult to trace. Friedman made a point of arguing that Lively and Reynolds were seeking to have the law bend to their desires, not necessarily the needs of justice. And justice is transparent, the judge said. Judge Lyman did not immediately rule today. He told both sides, "I'll give you my views soon," but he added that the case has garnered significant public interest. And he says, quote, "There is a presumption of public access in federal courthouses." The judge revealed, "Much of this information will become public as the case goes forward. For example, in motions for summary judgment, and of course at trial. There is a public interest in how the courts are being used that the court has to respect." In a statement after today's hearing where the judge did not make a ruling, a rep for the Princess of Evidenceless says, or should that be evidencelessness? I think both work, whatever. The Princess of Evidenceless. A rep for her says, quote, all of the parties agree that there is sensitive information in this case that should be shielded from public disclosure. The Wayfarer party's proposed order would do that. The dispute is about whether a narrow category of already non-public information should be accessible only to attorneys rather than the parties. That type of provision is standard in civil cases, including in litigation in which Brian Friedman appeared as counsel. This additional protection would ensure that the defendants who have committed to spending $100 million to destroying Miss Lively and her family do not have access to information that only attorneys need to see. And there were a lot of attorneys on the virtual hearing today, including lawyers for her publicist, Leslie Sloan, lawyers also for Stephanie Jones. Remember her? We don't talk enough about that lawsuit. Stephanie Jones is Justin Baldoni's former publicist. She is suing Baldoni, Wayfarer, and execs for defamation and breach of contract. His current publicist, Jen Abel, used to work for Stephanie Jones. The judge has already shot down some of her previous requests in subpoenas against Baldoni and his parties. And based on what he said in today's hearing, it seems like Judge Lyman might err on the side of more transparency than not. And in the hearing today, Judge Lyman said that the battle that is happening is a feud between PR firms. And perhaps the funniest moment in the virtual hearing was when Sigrid McCauley, representing Leslie Sloan, her publicist, said, "This is a unique case, certainly." No sh. And also another reminder, Leslie Sloan is trying to get herself removed from this lawsuit, as is the New York Times. This saga has so many moving pieces and lots of TBD factors. So we are waiting now for the judge to rule on the attorney's eyes only extra protection request, on the dismissal request from the Times, the dismissal request from Leslie Sloan. And I really hope that this continues because I'm loving it. And I do think that the Betty Boo's boss is so worried because, as we've already seen, she loves to text. She's the queen of oversharing, and we got to thank her for that. All right, my friend, thoughts on everything that we've discussed now? Let's get into it in the comments section.
Blake Lively is coming for content creators, and she says here, Blake Lively's legal team moves to restrict independent content creators discussing lawsuit against Justin Baldoni. I was like, are you having a laugh? Are you having a laugh, Missy? As the legal war between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni escalates, Lively's legal team has set its sights on a new concern: online content creators. In a newly filed courtroom documents, her attorneys argue that independent commentators on the platforms like YouTube and TikTok are unfairly amplifying Baldoni's claims, and they are pushing for a protective order to keep specific case details from the public's view. This move, like I said, Blake, you drew first blood. You went to the New York Times with cherry-picked texts about yourself and Justin. And when I say cherry-picked, it was in favor to you. So it made Justin look bad. Justin fought back With this case, it has only reinforced the way I feel now about media outlets, about what is fed to me in the news. I now, without a shadow of a doubt, I now realize that they feed me their narrative. They don't necessarily feed me the truth. So that was the first. You didn't take into account Steve Sarowitz, who is also of the Baha'i religion, of which I'm absolutely convinced, after looking at everything, that you took that as a weak link. That people that are too touchy, too nicey, really and truly, they do get taken advantage of. Nobody saw it coming, not even I. And I think that is one of the sexiest moves ever, especially when you don't have anything to hide and you're counting your coin because the lawyers will drown you in legal fees. And he opened up a website and he put everything there. You think it's okay for you, for your husband and yourself to go onto the red carpet and you're smiling and your husband is making fun of the case. But the second we hit back, all of a sudden you want content creators to stop. You don't want them to come into the case. Guess what, Mama Sita? We are already in the WhatsApp chat. You brought us there because you went and released it out to New York Times. We said, wait a minute, hold up. Something ain't right in the milk. Bring me in, Mama. I do not mind. I have a fabulous Gucci white suit I would love to wear. Bring me in. I don't mind. New York, I have family in New York. I will come right away. I will not stop and I will continue until there is justice. Until this instance of where you sent this to the New York Times, nobody really had an insight in what happens behind the scenes with Hollywood celebrities. None of us really knew. Neither did I. I was that naive. My naivete took over me. And I thought publicists were there to amplify all that you did. But no. In actual fact, you have publicists out there who tell lies, and then in the same breath they try to bring down other people that you are threatened by, and that happened to be Justin. I will never forgive you. I will never forgive anybody who was responsible for putting Justin in the basement. You know why? It's a trigger for me. But in the colonial age, they used to have upstairs, downstairs. You had the upstairs servants and you had the downstairs servants. And then during the slave trade, you had the inside slaves and you had the outside slaves. The black dark ones were outside. If you were light-skinned, you were inside. It was a trigger to me. It's that white supremacy that I can get away with anything, and that is no longer true because of TikTok, because of YouTube, because of Instagram, because it's no longer a small players game. It's now become a respectable and powerful force. You were prepared to destroy this man and his family and his career forever. And if it was a black person like me with my beautiful cheekbones and everything, they would have chucked me out and thrown my sack card on the floor and said, you're no longer a member. There were so many hiccups, and you thought that it was Justin who was out here in the streets dirtying your name, giving you bad press. Even your PR could not hemorrhage the bleeding, because that's truly who you are. This is a DV film. You should be solemn, if anything at all. You should be meeting other DV victims. That's what you should have been doing. You were glamored up. I really thought it was Sex and the City. I had no idea what this film was about. No, I did not. Karma is something else. And karma said, we're going to do to you for all of the Justins that you've done in the past. And so the power struggle that you're having here is that you cannot control us. Maybe you be like Justin and come out with your own website. It doesn't take much. Just put it out there. It was cheap, 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 cheap. Do you know what I think? And I don't mind. Depose me and all of that so that I can be in the future film, because I think there'll be a film about this and I cannot wait. Honestly, you have the flagrant audacity. You want to come for content creators. The audacity of you. The audacity of you, your team, your PR team, your husband, all of you all. The audacity of you.
Baldoni's father is not backing down with his support for his son. Sam Baldoni just posted this on his social media. In a world of Blake and Ryan's, be a Justin. This was a bulletin board put up in a school. It has lots of poems and supportive messages. So while Justin's dad is loud and proud, a lot of Blake Lively's supporters have gone silent. The latest update so far is that Blake wants all the text messages to her celebrity friends hidden from the public. Brian Freeman fired back by saying this plan would unjustly treat celebrities and people who are powerful in the industry differently from other people. I wonder what's in those texts that Blake does not want us to see.
Breaking Justin Baldoni news, everybody. Justin Baldoni is too nice. What? Literally, the LA Times put out, my opinion, a hit piece on Justin Baldoni saying that former employees that refused to go on the record felt like he created a work environment that was toxic positivity. There was too much toxic positivity. He was too nice to everybody. He made them sign off their emails with so much love. That's how ridiculous it has become with this attempt to malign this. They literally have nothing on him, right? Because Blake Lively has failed to produce any sort of evidence that proves any of the claims that she's made against him. He's now debunked a number of her claims against him and shown that some of the evidence that she has brought forth has been now discredited because it was doctored, like the text messages or, some of her tellings that were debunked by the footage that he released, the raw footage and audio. So now they have nothing left but to say that he was too nice. He created a work environment that was too focused on toxic positivity. What is toxic positivity? Like, please explain to me what is toxic positivity. Like, anybody that's ever had a bad boss that was truly toxic, a work environment that was truly toxic, hectic, stressful, not good for your mental health. Please explain to me why all of these anonymous sources, because there are multiple anonymous sources, because none of them want to come forward, because if they come forward, they're afraid they're going to be tied into the legal drama. Let me remind you, Blake Lively is the only person that's trying to drag people into this. Remember, the Sisterhood of the Traveling HR complaints, none of them want to speak out. Nobody is backing Blake Lively anymore. Everyone's kind of withdrawn their support for her publicly. So if anybody's trying to drag people into lawsuits, I would say it's Blake Lively, not Justin Baldoni. But this to me, and then we're attacking his Baha'i faith again, like, the more they try to drag the Baha'i faith, the more I'm like, this really doesn't sound like that bad. But this is the latest breaking news. This is the big exclusive in the LA Times, is that Justin Baldoni, people that won't even go on record to talk about how toxically positive he was, think that, his work environment, it was too positive. What? Did I just fall out of a coconut tree?
Really upset me about this, despite the fact that he owned this movie, that it was his production studio that did this and bought it. Blake Lively was such a brat that her and Ryan Reynolds specifically requested during the premiere that they so did not want him to attend his own movie. This should have been his biggest night, premiering this movie that him and his studio decided to purchase as a book and adopt it into a film. They made him and his family sit in the basement because she was just so uncomfortable around him. I mean, what kind of adult can't just be like, let's sit on opposite sides of the room, let's avoid each other? Nope. Look at his family. They were put into a basement to watch the premiere on a screen, and she did this only to humiliate him. This last step right here was just, how can I further humiliate you? And he says that she used demands to make this happen. Essentially, maybe said, I'm not going to come to the premiere at all if I even have to lay eyes on him. And so they had security guarding and kept him in the basement like he was a rapist on the loose who couldn't possibly be in the same room as her.
Guys, I just went down the craziest rabbit hole. And I want to thank Sarah B. Snacken. She thinks that the PGA mark motive was because Blake Lively and Reese Witherspoon both wanted to be a producer for Taylor Swift's directorial feature film debut. Bear with me again on this one. There's lots of information to input, so I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can. Okay, so December 9th, 2022. Variety puts out an article that says Taylor Swift making feature directing debut for Searchlight Pictures. So she's also going to write this film, the screenplay. But she needs a producer. Who could that be? Well, her BFF, Blake Lively, or her other BFF, Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon has a huge company called Hello Sunshine, by the way, and she is a major producer. So compared to Blake Lively, Reese Witherspoon is definitely the better option. But Blake Lively needed to prove to her bestie that I can be the producer, pick me. So in that article, it says Taylor is close personally to Blake, but Blake is still working to find her voice as a producer. Following the success of her latest film, It Ends With Us, as a producer. Now, let's look back at Justin Baldoni's timeline, okay? On April 12th, 2023. So this was a little bit after it was announced that Taylor Swift was going to be doing a directorial debut and writing the screenplay. As the meeting is ending, a mega celebrity friend of Reynolds and Lively walks into the room and also begins praising Lively's script. That is Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift came in to that meeting. Let's look at Blake Lively's production company called B for Effort. She filed it February 23rd, 2022. And by the way, there is just so much to download on her production company. There is an excellent Reddit that you guys should check out. It's all the information is right up there. But she started her own production company nearly 5 years ago and produced 0 movies to date. That's a whole other video. But this person does a really great job of putting a timeline together. Here's more of it. Check it out. Also, shout out to Notorious Raven because Sarah B. Snackins said that she was the one that kind of originally put this all together. So, overall summary, the potential reason why she wanted this PGA mark so bad was because of Taylor Swift. She wanted to be a part of her bestie's first directorial debut. Now she didn't want to be the director. She wanted to be the producer, okay? And I'm assuming after all of this madness, after all of the stuff that she did to get that PGA mark and everything, Taylor Swift is most likely going to go with Reese Witherspoon. And Reese Witherspoon is she's a legit producer and actress. The Morning Show, yeah, she produced that. She has a very successful production company called Hello Sunshine. She's got deals for days. She adapts books. Like, she is the person that Taylor Swift should really go with. But here's the real kicker. Is Taylor Swift's film going to end up like J-Lo's, where it's just like an hour-long music video? But anyways, she is an opportunist, okay? At the end of the day, this is an opportunist. She saw that her huge superstar of a friend was getting a deal with Searchlight Pictures, and she wanted to be a part of it. She got her PGA mark, and she wanted to prove to Taylor Swift that she could do it. She even had her pop in on a meeting to show how important she was. She even got her song on her film, to show how important she was. This is, my friends, about being an opportunist and trying to use her high-profile friend to help her producing career. So as of December 4th, 2024, there hasn't been any updates on this film.